Hi, my name is Michael Winchester. I live in Foster City, California, and I have a story for you. Might sound a little strange and unbelievable, but it's all true. As you will see, I have very little time left. I need to tell people about a technology that exists today that is being used by a company in Fresno, California. It revolves around, and you can Google this, a technology known as functional MRIs. Okay, and what you can Google is functional MRIs and mind reading, fMRIs and mind reading. Everyone knows what an MRI is, but this is called an fMRI. Known as a functional MRI, it allows one to read the human mind. I'm dealing with a group of men whose bosses, a group of the owners of the company, a group of scientists, neuroscientists, and electronics engineers manipulated functional MRIs to the point of being able to read the mind. And they're using this machine in Fresno to develop, they used it to develop a machine that can program your dreams with the use of a computer. And also they call it, this is what they told me, they call it lathing. And what lathing is they built this machine that when they read your mind, they can perform this maneuver that sends like electromagnetic waves into your head as to massage your inner head, massage your brain. And this is where the story sounds a little crazy, but this is what's going on. And these men in Fresno work. Basically, what I'm sending out this YouTube for is I'm looking for assistance. I know these men are in Fresno. They told me that I was the first person, okay? These neuroscientists that developed this machine called the lathe had predecessors who developed the mind reading machine, the fMRI machine, back in, believe it or not, the 70s. They have held this technology in the backgrounds, you know, for decades now. And they said, these men told me, and they can communicate with me through this machine called the lathe that they developed in the 90s or in the early 2000s. And they told me that when I was 3 years old, these neuroscientists got a hold of me somehow through a babysitter. They needed a young boy who couldn't tell his family, couldn't speak, and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, these men put this thing on my machine. I don't know what they were doing." It would have put a stop to it. They would have asked the babysitter, "Hey, who did you have over here?" So that part makes sense. You know, they needed a young boy. They got me. I was the one young boy that this machine was tested on back when I was 3 years old in 1976. And then when the neuroscientists saw that it worked, they retreated back and they used it amongst themselves to, they didn't know what they were going to do with it back in, late 70s. But through the use of cutting technology known as pleb, it's PLEB. You can Google that. It's pleb, PLEB. NICTA Corporation makes it back in Australia. NICTA, NICTA Corporation. Through cutting-edge technology, they developed the lathe, what I'm telling you about, the machine that you can program dreams. You can do that process called lathing, where they give you an inner massage, electromagnetic waves in there. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. They won't get into it in detail like that. But here's what I just want to give you a little overview of what's going on. These men that are using this machine are ending my life. They are going to kill me with it. The process of lathing that they're giving me is to create a heart attack for me and kill me. I'm 39 years old, in perfect health. I always have been. I know I have some things to tell people on this YouTube right here that may get me some help and save my life. This is I'm going to run down a list of things here that are some facts that might ring a bell with you, and you might say, well, I know that's my son. My son. I haven't talked to him much. I know he works 12-hour days. He's been secretive lately. And he works holidays, because these men don't give up. They work in 12-hour shifts and do this to me constantly. So let me go over this list of facts here. Thank you for listening. I know they're in Fresno. And how do I know they're in Fresno? Just conversation with these men and mistakes made by them. By the way, I've been talking with them for a long time now, a couple of years. They started talking to me a couple of years ago. And at the beginning, they didn't tell me they needed to kill me. They basically gave me an overview of the machine and the history of the machine. They made some mistakes and let out some information that led me to them. That like this. If they weren't, let's see, Fulton Mall. They dropped Fulton Mall. I know Fulton Mall's in Fresno. They talked about Fulton Mall, and they talked about a trolley service there that has trolleys that look like they look like cable cars. And I double checked all this. They did. I guess this trolley service was discontinued last year, or in 2011 or 2010. They talked about amalgamated transit. It's a limo service. They told me about Amalgamated. They talked about the Tower District, which is in Fresno. They've said street names in Fresno. Said, hey, Winchester, check this out. They talked about a place called Johnson Drilling. One said, hey, on the way to work this morning, I almost got in a car accident with a Johnson Drilling truck, and this was about 6 months ago. Johnson Drilling's in Reedley, California, and Johnson's Boiler and Controls. They said they see Johnson boiler trucks all the time, and that's on Gearhart Street in Fresno. I know these men, like I said, they work 12-hour days and they work 12-hour nights, 2 shifts. They've been working all holidays for about 2 years now. It could be your son, it could be a friend of yours, it could be a friend's son. I know these men, they've told me descriptions of how mind reading goes. I know these men are all white. They're all males, as not to cross gender and not to cross race as far as mind reading. They're all between ages 25 and 32 years old. This is important. They were all hired at the same time. Now, they wouldn't be clear on when they were hired, but I believe when they first started talking to me, they said, we've been doing this for about 2 years, Winchester. And this was about 2 years ago. So they were all hired in the same year, in the same day, either 2007, 2008, or 2009. And they never told their families, I don't believe, that they were working on an invention. I believe their cover was, well, we work for a computer/electronics company or an IT company. I know how to find them in Fresno. I know how to find them. I've ordered the Fresno directory. I know how to look for them by looking at through all the IT companies. Fresno's not that big, and they're very scared of that. I get my license back in February of 2013, and they know I will be driving to Fresno. I have the money to live in Fresno and search for them full time. And they are very threatened by this, and they have told me that they're going to end my life. And like I said, I don't want it to be a coincidence when I'm gone, when I'm dead and gone, that everyone says, well, I guess he worried himself to death or something, or he was supposed to be dead at this age. I just know because these men are telling me, and they're doing the lathing on me. Possible names of these men. I've heard them over the years say names that, there's 3 microphones on this machine, and 3 of them can talk to me at a time, and they talk to themselves too sometimes. Their names are possible names are Chris, Ed, Robert, Alex, or Dave. If you know a Chris and Ed or Robert or Alex or Dave that works for the computer electronics and has had these hours, any help. I'm looking for any help. Anyone out there that might know something. How do I went over how I knew they were in Fresno. I'm sure they're in Fresno. Like I said, they told me about cutting edge technology such as the Pleb hardware that you can look up from NICTA Corporation. They told me about places involved in the manufacturing of the machine, like HP Labs over here in Palo Alto. That's where they got the Pleb, they said. And companies that they've done business with that are their vendors are Entwistle Company in Massachusetts and Zwick Company in Georgia. These are companies that deal with electronics manufacturers and supply electronics manufacturing testing equipment. So I know they've done business with this Entwistle Company in Massachusetts and Zwick Company in Georgia. They said they lived in Fresno their whole lives, attending the local high schools there. Their parents and friends don't know their testing invention. That's what I said already. A little other tidbit, they told me that their owners were mostly German and Swedish, a mixture of scientists, neuroscientists, and electronics engineers. Basically, like I'll reiterate, this is to see if anyone can help me, a plea for help here. If anyone knows any information and can help me and give me a lead, any law enforcement, anybody out there. Like I said, my name is Michael Winchester. My cell phone number is 650-218-4991. And my email is agamemnon39@hotmail.com. AGAMEMNON 39 @hotmail.com. This is all real and true information, people. This technology does exist. These men do exist, and they are in Fresno. So any information, any help would be very welcome. And the world will someday know about what is going on in this case. Okay, thank you very much.